Welcome in. It is another day of the early line on Sports Grid. A Tuesday morning. I'm Kevin Walsh, joined by Donnie Rightside. A ton to get to over these next 2 hours. DRS, how you feeling?
Feeling good, ready to go. Some interesting topics as usual today as we fire up week one in college football. But I do like the fact that hour number 2, K-Dub, we're going to be previewing some NFL week one action. It's football season. You better get ready for it.
The early lines are back, and we're starting with football news as well, as Jimmy Garoppolo has found his home for this upcoming season. It's the San Francisco 49ers. They decided to restructure the contract, give him the chance to be the highest paid backup quarterback. No, he's not that Sam Darnold. That was just a fluff piece there. That was a total lie. They've been lying about the Garoppolo thing the entire time. But nevertheless, everything worked out for Jimmy G. Donnie. Not really. What'd you make of this situation?
I mean, we should have just said the early line should be Jimmy Garoppolo's special edition today, that we could spend 2 hours on this move and peel back the layers of this onion. I can't wait to get into it. I don't want to spoil anything right now. I don't want to spoil anything.
How about that? You're going to have to wait. Not too long, but we'll rumble through some of the other top stories, which also includes the starting to see some of these guys get cut, released, moved on from. And one of the more notable names yesterday was Sony Michel, former New England Patriot, cut by the Miami Dolphins.
Now, look, you're saying, okay, that's one of those big names that gets sent out there. I look at it this way. The Dolphins are really deep. They're deep at running back, wide receiver, solid offensive line, new head coach in here. Could this be the Dolphins' season to get into the playoffs and do some damage? I look at that sign as not as, oh, Sony Michel can't play anymore. I look at that, Kevin, as the Miami Dolphins are ready to go this year, and they are talented.
It's a good point. The crowded backfield, no doubt. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Myles Gaskin, likely the 1-2-3 punch there in South Beach. In college football news, look, we are closer and closer to week one of college football. The biggest game on the slate is Notre Dame and Ohio State, and I thought this was some good stuff from Marcus Freeman yesterday at a press conference, was informed of the point spread up against Ohio State for Notre Dame. His quote, "I didn't know that. I'm going to write that down." He said 17.5 points, right? We'll use that in a team meeting today. It's good to know. Some fuel for the Irish.
I love this stuff here. And pretty soon, Kevin, within the next, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, coaches will be fired. Instead of putting he was 64-64 in his career, they're going to flip that over to an ATS number where now you're going to have that built in. You're going to get bonuses, Kevin, at the end of seasons for covering numbers for college football coaches. Get ready for it.
What I would have appreciated is if Marcus Freeman was like 17.5. Was it 14.5?
Right.
Man, no, not that. But I would like if Marcus Freeman was been like tracking the movement on his odds board, be like, oh, when did that number steam up there? Is that sharp action? I think that would have been a good time. But nevertheless, the big game, week one of college football. We'll get you some Pac-12 win totals today, no doubt. We'll also get you some Major League Baseball updates, which includes some historic home runs. Aaron Judge yesterday, his 50th of the season, comes in a loss as the Angels win again, in large part due to a 2-run homer by Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, here comes Ohtani here. But by the way, Aaron Judge did something special last night. 50 is an amazing marker, and I believe the FanDuel Sportsbook around, the All-Star game had him listed at 49.5 for the second half, so he cashes in that ticket. A lot more to go. On pace to hit, Kevin, 63.
Aaron Judge trying for the AL home run record there, the Yankees home run record, a lot up for grabs. Our radio audience is here on this Tuesday morning. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, Sirius XM, Channel 159. It's the early line. Also, Albert Pujols chasing history. We'll get to that in just a moment. How about the Philadelphia Phillies? What a heartbreak yesterday. They were up 7-0. Final score, 13-7, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, this would hurt, especially for me, with a run line for the Philadelphia Phillies in the first 5 innings to have a 7-0 lead in the bottom of the 4th inning. But even more importantly, I guess you could say, is the Philadelphia Phillies saying, Lee, easy win for us here. Get back in the swing of things. You get Zach Gallen on the mound today. That was a huge loss for the Phillies yesterday.
Yeah, definitely not what you're looking for. A team that's handled their business early. It looked like that's exactly what was happening again. It turned, and it was a Diamondbacks big-time win. In NBA news, the New York Knicks have extended R.J. Barrett. a deal that can be up to as much as $120 million. Adrian Wojnarowski, a part of his initial reporting of the extension, talks about how this may complicate a potential Donovan Mitchell trade between the Jazz and the Knicks.
Yeah, we'll see if that does play out here because we don't have too much time here. We're entering into month of September, Kevin, where training camps get underway for the NBA. Crazy, isn't it? We just got done the NBA season, and they're firing it back up. Some more dominoes to fall, but that's a big one for the New York Knicks.
Let me just say this quickly because I don't think we're going to get to the NBA stuff otherwise. The idea that those two teams can't complete a trade now because of the R.J. Barrett deal is ridiculous. It's based in no level of reality. At no point did it appear that R.J. Barrett was going to be moved in the deal. We've heard that the Jazz aren't even all that interested, and the Knicks don't want to trade him. Why the spin zone? I have no idea. But the Knicks, like this, could bring Donovan Mitchell into their building if they really wanted to. But again, I think they're rightfully taking their time. Last update here, Serena, at what we believe is her last time out. Though, then again, Donnie, you were telling me she advanced, maybe leaving the door open?
Yeah, imagine paying all that money for tickets to watch Serena's last match, only for her to continue and play in another match in the next few weeks here. Tough scene out there, but let's see how long she can continue in the U.S. Open. Big win last night, and we'll see if he can keep it going.
45-1 to win the U.S. Open is Serena Williams. Some NFL news starts it off right after the break.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that.
Can they survive those first four games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live all access.
You can take the money line.
And the sports book, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The morning after.
You see their odds to win the division? They will certainly be a playoff team one way or the other, probably hosting in that opening round. What do you give for St. Louis's chances, DRS, of making a deep run come October?
Looks like the Cardinals are playing their best baseball right now. And if we're going to get pitching, particularly from their starting frontline pitchers, anywhere close to what they're doing now, they have a legitimate chance because they have those power arms in the back end that I got to tell you again, that 1 through 9 they run out there.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Also, if you do have union wages, as we like to say, do Major League Baseball teams say, okay, that's fine and good. Rookie ball, yep, that's gone. Single A, that's gone. Lower A, that's gone. To instructional league, that is gone as well. And quite frankly, we don't need single A altogether or double A. We'll just use triple A here, which limits the amount of jobs that some of these Major League Baseball players, should I say minor league baseball players, aspiring to be Major League Baseball players will have.
Only on Sports Grid.
Sports Professor Rick Harrell with your Sports News Minute. M&T Bank Stadium, last preseason game of the year. Do the Ravens do number 3? They won in 2000, they won in 2012. Everybody in Baltimore thinks so. Just signed Lamar Jackson. That's the beauty of the NFL, monetizing hope. 32 teams on a path to the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. But what are the 2 real practical improvements and why NFL values have gone up 14%? First of all, the stability of television. $111.8 billion deal through 2032. Can you imagine opening up your mailbox and getting a check for $337 million a year per team? That's a lot. Second, maybe even most important, 11 new states allowing gaming this year that didn't 2 years ago. And they say the bottom line is that 70 to 80% of the people will be able to gamble 3 years from now versus a smaller number now. You add them all up, big revenue for the NFL.
stays after all this time spent on trying to find a landing spot for Jimmy Garoppolo. He stays. An incredible turn of events here. Ultimately, the Niners and Jimmy G restructured his deal. It's going to make about $6 million. He has the opportunity to see that balloon up to $10 million based on incentives, whether that is taking the job off of Trey Lance or potential injury there. There's so many different things that we can get into. But I think we start from the Jimmy Garoppolo angle. If you're Jimmy G, is this a win? Is this a loss? How do you feel today?
For Jimmy Garoppolo, for me, this is a massive win, Kevin, because what have we been saying all along? There is no trade partner. The 49ers will cut Jimmy Garoppolo, and then we'll see where he lands. And does it take him a couple weeks? Does he pick a new place to go? And how much money would he actually make? $6.5 million guaranteed for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he was staring right down the eye of about $1 million contract by hanging on to a third quarterback spot somewhere in the NFL. So that's a big win for him. Now, if he also starts games, we'll get into the Trey Lance thing in just a few moments, but if he does start games, he's going to get roughly, 16 million guaranteed is what it takes a look at. So Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, was the biggest winner. Now, again, as I said, before we get to the whole Trey Lance angle here, it feels to me like the San Francisco 49ers. Now, NFL owners, more money than anything. They can spend on whatever they want. They can, cut a player, buy a new house in France, do whatever they want. It seems to me that coming down the stretch here, when it was apparent for, 6 months, nobody wanted Jimmy Garoppolo around the NFL by trade because they knew you should be cutting him here. That's the shrewd football decision, considering of what you think of Trey Lance. But again, I don't want to get into that just yet. But does it feel to you, Kevin, like the ownership goes, boy, we're going to be really embarrassed if everybody called our bluff? Let's call Jimmy Garoppolo, and the issue, the money, there's no issue with money here. Let's restructure his contract and bring him back and tell everybody how much we always really wanted to keep him, and that was the game plan from the beginning when it wasn't. It almost looks like everybody was waiting, and also the egg on their face, right? The minute he's cut, he goes to the Rams. The minute he's cut, he goes to the Seattle Seahawks. He goes to the Cleveland Browns. They get him for free. It almost feels like, to me, one of those moves like, we're not going to embarrass ourselves when everybody called our bluff. Let's just go ahead and re-sign him and tell everybody, oh, yeah, this was always the plan, even though we tried multiple times over 6 months just to trade this guy.
Make no bones about it. We were right the entire time, no matter what happens from now until basically the end of Jimmy Garoppolo's career. Because of the ridiculous contract, the subpar play, and ultimately an injury, Jimmy Garoppolo was never going to be valued at the number that people were trying to present him at, worth a first-round pick to pay him north of $20 million. I mean, that's just completely unreasonable to think that that's what anybody was going to be willing to do, and they were not willing to do that. So that is the first part of it, right? They had to find a different scenario. We thought it would just be outright cutting him. But funny enough, yesterday, we were on the radio side of things on Moneyline, you and I, and we started to say, it's pretty interesting. Once Garoppolo's gone, the Niners will be desperate for a real backup quarterback. So from that perspective, I think it's good for the Niners that they were able to keep Garoppolo in the building. For Garoppolo, based on what was out there as of today, it's fine. But realistically, DRS, you think about every option that these two sides had on the table, I don't know if this is really a win. The Niners could have moved on quicker and found themselves probably a cheaper, yet similarly adequate backup quarterback situation. And again, if Garoppolo was cut right off of the bat, he would have been picked up and signed somewhere else. So where we sit right here, right now, it's good. But in the grand scheme of things, this continues, I still think, to be egg on the face and a loss for both parties.
It really is the way it turns out because, and I love what's coming out, Kevin, from the San Francisco ownership GM side of this thing. Man, look at this. And everybody's buying hook, line, and sinker, it seems like some of the beat writers out there in the NFL. It's a great move. It's great. Look, something happens with Trey Lance. You got Jimmy Garoppolo. Raise my hand. Is the reason we were looking to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and draft a new quarterback was because this guy couldn't actually lead us to a championship? John Lynch, answer that question. Yeah, that's actually right. So, okay, bringing him back as a backup quarterback in case your starter goes down to run you to a Super Bowl, I'm not buying any. Nothing makes sense from the ownership side, from what they've been doing the entire offseason and saying the entire offseason to where we end up now. I love the fact that it says, because you can almost quote tweet for tweet here for beat writers. That's a talented football team that needs insurance in case their quarterback goes down. Well, that's terrible insurance because that's the guy that couldn't get you over the hump. That's the guy that I watched in playoff games, Kyle Shanahan, go, you know what? Just run the football. We're so good. I just can't have my quarterback make a mistake and blow this game for me. Amazing that this was a win or perceived win for the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, here is the other angle of it that cannot be ignored, and certainly I don't think a pair of Eagles fans would be silly enough to ignore. The tension that will exist in the room. And everyone that tells, hey, Garoppolo's a good locker room guy, I'm sure he is. Hey, they made it clear to him it's Trey Lance's team. I'm sure they did. None of that matters. None of that matters. Game number 1 is in Chicago. I'm not going to, what happens if week 6? No. Game number 1 is in Chicago. Let the Niners lose that game and see what the conversation is going into week 2. I guarantee it will be Jimmy Garoppolo, look at the record. He never would have lost the game. He knows how to roll in Shanahan's system. I guarantee, Donnie, that's all it takes. And this is going to be all year long. Now, I know that that's a tough bridge because you do want a backup quarterback that you can trust to a degree. But these guys just spent a full season basically in the reverse role, right? With Trey Lance breathing down Garoppolo's neck, the uncomfortable, uncertain times that it created. It's part of the reason that, by the way, both Shanahan and Lynch said, yes, we anticipate Garoppolo will be moved because it was probably going to be what was best for Trey Lance. You look at some of the Trey Lance season-long numbers now, right? 3,300 yards and a half, 21 and a half passing touchdowns. I don't know if I can confidently bet over because now I have to tell you, Donnie, if there's a little bit of shaky waters happening in the middle of the season, they might turn to Garoppolo.
Yeah, let's take our time with this one too, because let's look at that angle, Trey Lance versus Jimmy Garoppolo, right? If this was just about we needed a solid backup quarterback, you know what you do for Jimmy Garoppolo? You say, hey, look, you're not making $25 million that you thought you were going to. If we cut you, you're going to get, luckily, $2 to $3 million from another team. Let's give you 6.5. You be the backup to come in. But they didn't do that, Kevin. Did you see how they structured this contract? If Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter of this football team, his contract nearly triples in value. So for the people out there that go, he's going to be a pretty good mentor, he's not going to rock the boat. Let any human element seep into a locker room. The guy goes, I think I should be playing right now. And you know what? If I am playing, my contract triples. Yeah, I'll be the good soldier and just sit back and say, hey, let's go, Trey Lance. We're under 500. Guys, I wasn't brought in here to take over for Trey Lance. I was brought in to be a cheerleader here just in case he gets hurt or something happens. That's not the way the NFL works. That's not the way competitive people operate here. And if your contract just about triples, if you're the starter, you're going to put in all the work you can in practice to beat him out. You're going to see what happens on Sundays. You're going to say to yourself, I can do that even better. So from my angle here, if you brought him back at the $6.5 million, no matter what happened, Kevin, that's all he got, that would play into it. But the fact that you incentivize his contract, that if he does play, correct, he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to be angling to be the starter, and I can't wait to see this play out.
He certainly will be, and understandably so. I mean, last year they were up double digits in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship to the eventual Super Bowl champions. A couple of years back, they were up double digits in the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo believes that if a couple things break right, he has the ability to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback in this organization. He's not just going to sit idly by. The one caveat I will say, though, as somebody that has found themselves high on the Niners, likely to pick them to win this division and maybe beyond that, I think Trey Lance will be good enough. But again, it doesn't now allow for a dip, I think, without controversy. The ideal scenario for every single person involved, they lower the Garoppolo number, and now he's a lot more of a tradable asset. We shall see. We'll take a break and come back. It's the early line on Sports Grid.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on SiriusXM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early
Take a look
line.
at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play
Aaron
less.
Rodgers
The
and
morning
Russell Wilson.
after.
We saw movement in the marketplace like
Fantasy sports
the Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to coast.
That's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind of
decisions.
bizarre when you consider, everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live
I
all
like
access.
Vandy. I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take a 4.5.
In-game live. Prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live.
All
Overtime.
done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The morning after.
Disappointing because of the lack of offense in times, including striking out a ton. The highest K rate against righties all year long in Major League Baseball at nearly 27%. In the last month, the second highest at 26%. Now, Frankie Montas has not gone over his strikeout prop today of 6.5 since joining the Yankees, but it's plus money against the highest striking out team in all of MLB, over 6.5.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
I do not know who is laying minus 280 on this over.
You always get into that notion where when you're an upper echelon team, like a national championship SEC team, all you do is reload 4- and 5-star players on the defense. I'm not all that worried. You do get Stetson Bennett back this year, a guy that won the national championship, and I think most Georgia fans, I say this facetiously, actually wish he would just move on, transfer, or retire at this point.
Only on Sports Grid.
Sticking with the Jimmy Garoppolo 49ers story here for a minute. I know you want to get to a Trey Lance, some additional Trey Lance aspects of this. We'll do that in a moment. But the one other thing that I thought when I saw this is, while Garoppolo with the injury was never going to be worth a first-round pick at the time that everybody was talking about it, that contract was a big issue. They've now lessened the cap hit by, roughly $20 million, right, Don? He has a no-trade clause, so he'll be able to ultimately have all of the say, right, in where he lands. But now, if that starting quarterback injury comes about and a team is desperate, trading for Garoppolo is way, way more reasonable. Where are you at on the idea that Garoppolo actually now could be moved on for some level of draft capital to a team that maybe loses a quarterback along the way?
It could make some sense here, because if you're looking at the 49ers, if you can just try to say what makes the most sense here, that Jimmy Garoppolo actually doesn't even take a regular season snap for the 49ers, and by week 5, he's shipped off for a conditional third-round pick. If he becomes a starter, makes the playoffs, turns into a 2. If he doesn't play, turns into a 5. You get how the NFL operates with their business. I think that's the best-case scenario now for the 49ers with respect to that, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'll say, as far as the best backup quarterback options that are out there, Garoppolo has to rocket up towards the top of that list, right? I mean, now there could be cheaper options, the Gardner Minshews of the world, right? But if you are looking, if something happens with the Stafford elbow, now I don't know if the Niners would actually trade him in division, but just that caliber of a team, you could see Garoppolo rocketing towards the top of their list. Now, talk to me on Trey Lance, right? What else are you thinking about in terms of the Niners' young quarterback heading into this season after we hear the news that Garoppolo is going to stay in town?
Let's go back to, if you will, ground zero of the San Francisco 49ers, a Super Bowl caliber football team that was just looking for its franchise quarterback. And we thought it was interesting where maybe you could hit the trade market, because this is before you traded multiple draft picks away. You said, all right, we're going to settle on our guy. It's going to be Trey Lance. Might not be ready this year, but in the future, this is going to be the guy that's going to excel, the Patrick Mahomes of the NFC for us here. You watch him. Now, granted, he hasn't played really much yet. Maybe he does turn into Patrick Mahomes. But let's just go over the timeline here, right? And we said to ourselves, scratched our heads, goes, wow, you're giving up roughly 3 first-round draft picks to get this quarterback. He must be something special, only to be told he's not ready. Whoa. This isn't a guy that you drafted in the 4th round that you're trying to groom. This isn't like, you see Malik Willis now as a middle-round draft pick. They say, hey, he's got a lot of talent. We only spent a 3rd-round pick on him. So if it doesn't work out, it's not that big a deal. But if he does succeed, this is a huge home run. That didn't happen here. So you got 3 of those draft picks there that you trade away. Trey Lance comes to town, and he's not ready. So say, okay, let's take our time here. Let's move forward. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, it's clear the San Francisco 49ers in their meetings behind the scenes have agreed this is not the guy that can win us a Super Bowl. We have to move on. Draft picks were made. Trey Lance is in town. And now we shift forward to this offseason. Because if you remember, and bringing up Patrick Mahomes here, right? Let's use that as a marker. Alex Smith was a quarterback and a pretty good quarterback in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes comes to town. They see him in practice for a year. Like, hey, Alex, man, love you, kid. Get out of town. We got the next great thing here. We made the right move. So now you figured the next maturation process here for Trey Lance, Kevin, was what? Whew. We see Trey Lance every day in practice. My God, to get him on the field this year. We're trying to force ourselves to make sure he has this quote-unquote redshirt year. But it is like a pit bull on a chain that we are ready to let loose. This guy is ready to absolutely clobber the NFL. And Kevin, we got no reports from practice. We heard nobody in practice ever say, like, my goodness, this kid is absolutely astoundingly good. In the offseason, we heard nothing where, man, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. Every practice I go out there, we're ready to dominate, because you wait to see this kid in practice. Jimmy Garoppolo's off to the side. We don't need him. We don't need him. We don't need him. Didn't hear anything from Trey Lance all the way through. And now you get to training camp, and you're still waiting, saying, all right, make it official. If this is your franchise quarterback, cut ties with every backup quarterback, because they don't matter at all. Trey Lance is going to be the next great quarterback, only to see Jimmy Garoppolo come back, renegotiate his salary, and also get that basically triple pay bump if he becomes the starter. Yeah. The only thing you can take away from the San Francisco 49ers is they whiffed, Kevin, on this draft pick.
Man, it's fascinating. I think it's, as someone that is optimistic on Trey Lance, I don't have much of a defense, right? I don't think, I don't know how I counter that. Unless, hey, we just want to have, we want to have insurance in case of an injury, which teams do. But to your point, right, we talk about the potential benching of Trey. You can't bench Trey Lance. Trey Lance could go out there, throw 2 interceptions every single game. You can't bench Trey Lance with all of the resources you've poured into this quarterback. You have to be willing to give him the full ride, which really, again, makes for a really, really interesting spot here now for the Niners, because we know you're going to be open to the conversations. I'll say this. I don't want to get into the specifics of the schedule, but if you do look at the first 8 and then they're going to hit the bye week, it's a really nice mix of contenders and teams they should be able to pick on. Just hear this out quickly. The Bears, the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Rams, Panthers, Falcons, Chiefs, Rams. Again, the Bears, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Falcons, they're going to be, potential touchdown favorites versus all, regardless of building. 2 against the Rams, Denver and Kansas City, though, those are really tough games. It's a really good mix to see how Trey Lance can settle himself in. Really, really excited to watch this play out. We do want to get to some of the Major League Baseball headlines, though, because really, there's 2 guys that are trying to chase history, and there are markets related to both of them being able to achieve that. We'll start with Aaron Judge. Last night hits his 50th home run of the season. If you look right now at the home run leaderboard, you would think that Aaron Judge is playing a different sport. If Aaron Judge was off that leaderboard and it was Schwarber at 36, Goldschmidt at 33, you would probably be talking about, man, I got to tell you, the dead ball era we're in, nobody can hit any home runs this season. And then there's just Aaron Judge, Nani. In a year where we've talked about the baseballs having no juice in them, going for 50 home runs now with still a lot of room left here. The player special is out there. Over 61.5 home runs is plus 285. I know the Yankees lost, and yes, that matters, but Aaron Judge is just having a special season.
No, he certainly is having a special season. And also, I do love the fact here, when you're looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook, how these lines are adjusting. And again, bringing up in the 7-7 topics, Kevin, I talked about Aaron Judge, roughly priced around the All-Star break, which is per se the second half of the season, 49.5 home runs if he could get there. Why? 50 is a huge marker number there. He gets that last night. And then we're trying to take a look at where that's going to be in the future. 59.5 would be up next because 60 is the big marker. But if you're looking from a New York Yankees perspective, why do they hang that, Kevin? 61.5 up on the board at a plus 285 price. It's because Roger Maris. That's the next big hurdle here. 60, then hitting 62. And who's to say he's not going to get it done? I'm not going to. You have roughly a month left in the season. He plays in a true hitter's ballpark. As long as he gets pitches ahead, and you saw Boone say last night, man, the guy doesn't get any pitches. He got one, and he knocked it onto the rocks. That's how talented this guy is. I'm not going to put him past him to get 62 home runs because in lure, in Yankee Stadium, that is what you need to get. You get 62, you move up there with the titans of that franchise.
You're talking about 33 games remaining to hit 12 home runs. And so the trajectory that he's on is you would think he can cross that line. But he is it's a really big leap to make. I'm not trying to do the Barry Bonds thing. But in today's game, nobody is being intentionally walked like we're seeing Aaron Judge. It's Bonds-esque. Bonds was a whole different kind of ball game there. But if Judge doesn't have those opportunities, it makes it a little more difficult to cross the finish line. I'll add this point quickly, and then I want to get to Pujols. The fact that that game yesterday was won by the Angels because of a 2-run homer by Shohei Ohtani, and there wasn't a lick of movement in the MVP market. If this wasn't already clear, even though I think it was, that race is over. That race is done. This is Aaron Judge's award, and it's been clear for a while, but maybe never clearer than after last night's game. Albert Pujols goes deep once again. We talked about his odds to hit 700 home runs, I think last week. That was like plus 1,000, maybe plus 980 to be a little more specific. Homers yesterday, plus 330 now for Albert Pujols to join the 700 club.
It's perfect, too. And I always thought that number was a little bit overpriced because let's just say it was roughly 10-1. If it's going to be his last season, like we're talking about Serena at the U.S. Open, should be the last go around here. It's the same thing as what Albert Pujols is saying. Now, will it be different if he finishes with 699 home runs? You're right. Does he come back and the Cardinals say, hey, look, we'll give you a look-see. Knock this out by April 11th, hit your 700th home run, 701, and you can step away from the game. We'll see if that happens. But if we're looking just at this year for that race to the finish, 699 is a massive number, and if they clinch this division early, Albert Pujols is still going to play. Albert Pujols, as we joke, Kevin, will move into the first slot here, the leadoff batter, the number 2 batter, number 3 batter, to make sure he gets even more at-bats than what he sees. Same thing with Aaron Judge. I love the fact that the FanDuel Sportsbook is putting up historical markers to bet into because these guys see these numbers, and they're gunning for him. That's what you like here. And for a number to be 10-1 last week, only 1 home run a few days later to now be plus 330, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Now, can you look up something for me? Can you look up Albert Pujols weighted on base averages and ISO power numbers over the last 30 days? Because am I wrong here in feeling like Albert Pujols, though, is just been absolutely on fire now for what feels like a month of baseball? We talk about Judge needing 12 homers in 33 games. Pujols needs half of that in the same amount of time. Now, he's not Aaron Judge, but this is a guy that he's got the home run swing working right now, DRS. If I'm not mistaken, over the last 15 days, he's batting .429. In the month of August, batted .407 with 8 home runs.
Now, he's got a tomato can on the mound today he's going to face, but he's not in the anticipated lineup because he doesn't hit righties all that well. But you're right. Look at the left-handed numbers here. 33 pitchers that he's faced there, 759 ISO. 759 ISO versus lefties. If he has a lefty to face, Kevin, he's going yard.
That is how. Whoa, those are some big-time numbers there. Some big-time numbers in the Pac-12. That's next.
If If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on SiriusXM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play
Aaron
less.
Rodgers and
The morning
Russell Wilson.
after.
We saw movement in the marketplace like
Fantasy sports
the Cleveland
today.
Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to coast.
That's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind of
decisions.
bizarre when you consider, everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game
Everybody.
live
I
all
like
access.
Vandy. I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take a 4.5.
In-game live, prime time.
The PGA Championship.
In-game live,
All
overtime.
done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The morning after.
Disappointing because of the lack of offense in times, including striking out a ton. The highest K rate against righties all year long in Major League Baseball at nearly 27%. In the last month, the second highest at 26%. Now, Frankie Montas has not gone over his strikeout prop today of 6.5 since joining the Yankees, but it's plus money against the highest striking out team in all of MLB, over 6.5.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
I do not know who is laying minus 280 on this over.
You always get into that notion where when you're an upper echelon team, like a national championship SEC team, all you do is reload 4- and 5-star players on the defense. I'm not all that worried. You do get Stetson Bennett back this year, a guy that won the national championship, and I think most Georgia fans, I say this facetiously, actually wish he would just move on, transfer, or retire at this point.
Only on Sports Grid.
Live right here on Sports Grid. It's Kevin Walsh and Donnie Rightside taking a look now at some Pac-12 win totals. Our last conference, Power 5 conference, to get to. Very, very excited to close this out here as we are now just 2 days away from really the true beginning of the college football season with week number 1 action. Pitt versus West Virginia, a big game for all, but especially here on this show. We'll get there. That's on Thursday, but we're in the Pac-12 right now, and this conference is really going to have one of its most fascinating seasons in a long time. Lincoln Riley and USC playing the villains. The AP poll, the coaches poll, not as high on the Trojans, but the odds makers, well, there's a gap. Certainly in perception. USC, the favorites, and also the highest win total of any team in this conference, 9.5. It is juiced towards the under, though, DRS, at minus 135. What are your expectations for Lincoln Riley in year number 1 with USC?
How about that? You know, to get double-digit wins, a little bit of plus money there. So if you're anticipating 10 wins from a typical USC team, you say, you know what, that makes a little bit of sense. But it is kind of interesting, as we put it, where Lincoln Riley goes from University of Oklahoma out to the West Coast here, brings a really good quarterback along with him, and somehow through the NIL picks up the Biletnikoff Award winner to slap it wide receiver. So right off the bat, you're saying to yourself, an offensive guru here calling the plays, a dominant quarterback that looks like he can be one of those mixes, Kevin, over the next few years in the Heisman Trophy race, and a wide receiver that's probably penciled in for 1,300 yards at the least this year for USC. So those things are good, but this isn't one of those USC teams that he's inheriting like the Pete Carroll days where it's first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick after first-round draft pick. He's going to have to do some recruiting out there and certainly hit the recruiting trail quite hard. But if you're looking for a landing spot at USC this season, Kevin, you go over the schedule. How many times have we looked at the SEC teams? Oh, look at this, murderer's row. You got to go in and week out. If I'm looking at SC's tough games at Utah, which, yes, will be a tough game. Notre Dame to end the season at home, that will be a tough game. But in between, there should be a lot of wins on the schedule. So, as I said, this isn't one of those USC teams because it is a new regime coming to town. You just roll your helmet out there and beat football teams. But my goodness, Kevin, where are the losses coming from? Arizona? Arizona State? Washington State, Oregon State. I don't see it there. So I wanted to actually fade the USC Trojans coming into 2022, but I look at that schedule and say to myself, they realistically should have 9 wins in the bag, and you're just waiting on one of those other games where it's, okay, can you beat Utah even if you don't? Can you beat Notre Dame even if you don't? You still have a little bit of leeway in there to get wins elsewhere. I want to like the Trojans this year when I didn't, Kevin. Over 9.5 plus 115, I actually think they can get to 10 wins.
So the interesting thing is I've wondered is perhaps the schedule the gap, right? If you're an AP voter, right, DRS, you don't factor in the schedule when you're doing your power rankings there, right? Maybe that is the gap. Because to your point, at Utah is the only game where you're looking and going, okay, they're an underdog. The Notre Dame game, could they be slight? Maybe, but there's a lot of different things that would have to happen from now until we get to the last game of the season. But again, that your cap is 2 football games. But I think it goes beyond that. There are a lot of people that USC team was awful last season. So bad, right? A group last year that went 4-8. Who cares? Oh, I mean, Donnie, as you said, this is transfer portal U. Everything is different. Lincoln Riley immediately having so much success, bringing not just, hey, man, that's a sleeper. No, as you said, a Heisman candidate in Caleb Williams, a legitimate rock star running back in Travis Dye. And where'd Travis Dye come from, by the way? Oregon. He's rocking up into the conference saying, yeah, thank you very much, one of your best players. And Jordan Addison, the best wide receiver in college football last season. And that also extends to the defensive side of the football as well. Oh, that defense last, it's going to be a different defense. There's going to be a lot more talent inserted to this roster. Now, I understand that there is going to be change and it's going to take time to adjust. But DRS, Lincoln Riley has been a head coach for 5 seasons, all of them, of course, in Oklahoma. You know how many times he's lost 3 games, including bowl games, by the way, which don't even count to this. So I'm giving you a chance at an extra loss in 5 years, Donnie? Never has he lost 3 games. When we talk about college football, the quarterback position, defensive lines, wide receiver cores, but what matters the most is your head coach. And USC, based on everything that Lincoln Riley has offered up through the first 5 years of his coaching career, Donnie, is one of the 5 best coaches in the sport, is he not?
Very good coach, and that's the perfect landing spot because even if you're looking at both of these programs, Kevin, Oklahoma and USC, it's kind of funny if you said, all right, if Lincoln Riley stayed in Oklahoma, you pencil them in to be in the top 4 in the country and heading off to maybe a chance at winning a national championship just because the schedule they had in Oklahoma. So now he gets that soft landing spot out at USC. He's going to do major things here over the next 2 to 3 years, and I'm thinking, as you said, right off the bat, what do you need, Kevin? An offensive line, 4 or 5 starters coming back. What do you need? A very good running back, checkmate. What do you need? An athletic quarterback that can throw and run, check that off, and a wide receiver that's absolutely going to open everything up. It's all there. And the funny part about this, Kevin, is I open up and say, okay, USC downtrodden last year, going to take a little bit to go. What's a really good season for USC? 8-4, 9-3, see if they can do it. And the more I look at this by saying, you're right, and where do you want to face Notre Dame, Kevin? If you're USC, you don't want to face Notre Dame to open up the season, even at home at this point, because you're saying, we got to get our regime together and see exactly where everybody fits. You play them in the last game of the season, you're basically rolling to know exactly exactly what you're doing at that point here. So everything's scheduled. Same thing with Utah. Do you want that to be your first Pac-12 game early in the season? No. Put that bad boy midway through the season. It sets up to be a pretty good year for USC.
It definitely does. Look, yes, things could fall apart, but it feels like, worst case scenario, if you bet over, you're going to be transitioning a USC plus 115 money line ticket into that final game of the year against Notre Dame. I think you might legitimately be seeing some value on that number. Let's move forward to Utah. A lot of people like Utah. Our guy Ben Stevens loves Utah, thinks they can make the college football playoff this year. Win total's 8.5, but it's juicy if you want to bet the over. Minus 170. They don't want to transition to a flat 9, it appears, so they're making you pay if you want to go over the 8.5. A talented football team with a lot of returning players from last year's group that impressed a lot. What do you think about the Utes, Donnie, at 8.5?
Yeah, pretty good home field advantage, very good coach. This is one of those coaches, Kevin, where you say to yourself, if you're in the betting public, which, we are in that realm, you want a team that each and every week you're probably going to get the best effort out of it with a very good game plan. That's what they provide. But I think you hit the nail on the head here, Kevin. Just take a look at 8 starters back on offense, which includes, we were talking about USC. What do you need to be successful? How about your top quarterback back, your top running back in the fold? 4 of your 5 top pass catchers will be back for Utah here. So you're figuring that this team should be good enough to win. As I said, it's always important to have home field advantage. Looking at the scheduling here, at UF on the road, typically you'd say to yourself, oh, man, let's see how close they can hang around Florida and then continue on their season to see if they can win the Pac-12 championship. No. Utah's going down to play Florida, to beat Florida, and quite frankly, should beat Florida in their own building, which then leaves at Oregon, which again, it's going to be a tough game for them, and also USC, but they get them at home. It's kind of interesting to see where we just talked about USC is that juice to the over 9.5 plus 115, and you say to yourself, Utah over 8.5 at a minus 170, which is a lot of juice. So if I'm trusting Kyle Whittingham, again, you can't just take all overs in every conference, but if I'm looking at things that make sense, there's no reason to believe that Utah can't get to those 9 wins here. You'll pay a lot for it, but it might be worth paying that extra half game there.
It's one of those things where can you try and maybe attack Utah in a different direction, right? I think all in all, if you like Utah over the 8.5, Donnie, aren't you just betting them maybe then on the money line week number 1 against Florida? Wouldn't that feel like maybe a better way to go about it instead of tying up the money there? Because if you lose that game, you only have 2 more that you can offer up, right? UCLA, by the way, is supposed to be a good team this year, so include them in the at UCLA, home versus USC, at Oregon, if there's a trip-up spot. I think if you're over on Utah, instead of paying minus 170, I think you transition towards a money line versus the Florida Gators. I think you can make hay a little bit more that way. But again, the love for Utah is real. The highest rated Pac-12 team in the AP Top 25 at 7. So just to tell you this as well, this team is absolutely a college football playoff contender if they're able to live up to expectation. One of the big things for Cincinnati last year, DRS, was how high they started in the initial AP rankings. I know the AP is not the college football playoff, but it matters. Cincinnati was a part of the day 1 conversation. Utah is a part of the day 1 conversation. Let me get to the Oregon Ducks here, because the Oregon Ducks also are at 8.5, a little more palatable though, at minus 130. Oregon comes in with a quarterback that they've not explicitly said it, but I would be very surprised if it is not Bo Nix under center. Probably not under center, let's be honest here. It's college football, but you get my point. For the Oregon Ducks. This is the year number 1 for Dan Lanning. Comes over as the defensive coordinator from that unbelievable Georgia defense. Kenny Dillingham, by the way, the offensive coordinator, saw success with Bo Nix in Auburn. So the fact that they can try and pair these two again is very opportunistic. And I'll jump ahead and let people know this right now. This is actually my favorite Pac-12 win total on the board at an 8.5 towards the over. Because, Donnie, I think the talent is there. The offensive line brings so much back. I'm optimistic on what Dan Lanning can do as the defensive coordinator, but obviously the head coach. But for that side of the ball, there's tons of talent all over. But as per usual, what do we turn to? The schedule. An absolute godsend here for the Oregon Ducks. I know they open up with Georgia, but DRS, outside of that, they do not have to play USC, and they're able to host Utah. They're able to host UCLA on their schedule. They're able to host BYU on their schedule. The road games, DRS, Washington State, Arizona, Cal, Colorado, Oregon State. 5 road games. I think they're at least a touchdown favorite in every single one of them. At that juice, I think over 8.5 for the Oregon Ducks really lines up here.
No, it certainly does. And what's one of the first things that most of us look at here when we're trying to handicap a season? Who's coming back at quarterback, and more importantly, who's coming back on the offensive line? If all 5 offensive linemen are coming back who started last year, that's a pretty good boon for your team to look forward to it. So I do think Oregon does have a legitimate shot, and it does come down to the actual, teams they're playing at UGA. Now, they might get thumped. We just talked about Utah, right? Same conference going down to Florida, picking up a win because they think they could beat the Gators. I don't think that's going to be the case against Georgia, but that's a good measuring stick game to take into your conference because it doesn't count against you in the conference. It's a non-conference game. So it's nice to see that they're scheduling that to sort of measure up. Now, if we're taking a look at team totals here in this conference, Kevin, quickly on the Stanford Cardinal over 4.5. How about this one, Kevin? A plus money price. 4.5, Donnie. Stanford's only going to win 5 games. What type of program is this? Well, granted, this schedule is really hard. But if you're looking at returning starters, Kevin, what if I told you 10 of 11 coming back to the offense, including a 22-year-old starting quarterback, not a 19, 20-year-old, a guy that's been around the game and maybe a projected first-round draft pick. If we're looking across the board here, I think it makes sense just at the experience coming back. That should be able to handle 5 wins in conference play.
The Cardinals are the kind of team that feels each and every week, oh, this could be the week they pull an upset. You're going to need a couple of those, but you're going to be in the mix early. Should obviously be able to run away with that Colgate game. And if they're going to get an upset, right, you're looking for one early season. USC, Washington, and Oregon. It's a tough initial 3. But again, if you grab one of those, rolls over, turns into momentum there. That is the Pac-12. We're taking a break. We're coming back. And when we come back, we will close out our number 1. You are watching and listening to the Early Line on Sports Grid.
Might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart, or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that. Can they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live all access.
You can take the money line.
And the sports book, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The morning after.
Now that preseason has come to a close as we get ready for the regular season when it comes to the weekly handicap of NFL games.
From carrying it over from the preseason to now is that pretty much ignore everything that you saw in the preseason. There's not too much that you should take and carry from there to there. I was out with another guy who said, oh man, he was a Jets fan, and he assured me that they're going to go 500.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
How about not only winning 8-3, but over the course of this series, Donnie, putting up 22 runs to just 3 for the Blue Jays. They shut them out twice. They absolutely dog-walked this team over 3 games, who, by the way, entered just being swept by the Rays for 4 and having lost 6, I believe, in a row. What an embarrassment here.
Only on Sports Grid.
Well, would you look at that? We have a segment to go here in hour number 1 and kind of move through things maybe a little quicker than we expected. So, can I sneak in an RJ Barrett opinion or two for the people? Because I have them.
Man.
Here's the thing, DRS. I just want to make this point quickly, all right? I understand that the Jazz and the Knicks are deep into these conversations here. But what apparently some of the top reporters do not understand is that RJ Barrett was not going to be in that deal. We've heard the Jazz aren't interested in RJ, and we know that the Knicks don't want to part ways with RJ Barrett. What the Knicks need to do at this point is say, here's the final offer. Take it or leave it. Because they have way less pressure on themselves than people are trying to present. The Knicks are not going to add Donovan Mitchell and flip into a title contender all of a sudden. They'll go from bubble team to bubble team. That is exactly what is going to happen here by bringing in Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell has not requested a trade out of Utah. You're allowing the Jazz to operate with such leverage that you should not. You know who loses if Donovan Mitchell stays for another year in Utah? The Jazz. They're trying to tank their season. If they ultimately keep Donovan for a year, they open themselves up to the chance that he wins them a couple of extra games, that he finds himself injured. Heck, they even open themselves up to the world where he requests that trade, and then in future negotiations, Donnie, they're not going to have as much leverage. The Knicks are in a good spot here.
Yeah, Knicks are in a good spot here, and we got, roughly a few weeks left at that before training camp does start, so we'll see if some things do turn in the dominoes market here, Kevin. But I got to say, is this your Listen Up segment now? Did you use this as a Listen Up segment at the end of the hour? Can I dip out and have these 3 minutes each and every day? I would like that. I would.
I'll tell you what, you might have your, you know what? I talk to people in the back. Give it a tangy hoops name and kick you out of here for these 3 minutes. People in the back. Here's the thing, people in the back are pretty upset about that.
They might want me at the end of every hour here. Yep.
Yeah, I know. Hour 2 coming up.